What's happening, guys? This is James Blonde and my buddy Colby Cheese, and we're about to take on the last boss of Act 2 in Path of Exile. As it just recently went into open beta, the game now has new content past this point. And so in this video, we'll be taking a look at the various parts of Act 3, as well as showing you the complexity of the game by explaining what I've done with my character at the different parts of Act 3. And right now, I'm a level 24 Shadow using a broad... Oh my gosh, that's creepy. I'm not really looking forward to fighting this boss. Holy crap, no! No, what is that? I don't even know what it does. I've never seen this boss before. Holy crap. Oh, wow, I don't know how I dodged all that. So the way I've got my Shadow set up right now, I'm using a combination of fire traps, bear traps, and ethereal knives, which you see the green looking spell right here. Plus I've got fireball as my main attack with added fire damage, and I've got added cold damage to my ethereal knives, which makes it pretty effective, but having those support gems really eats up my mana, so I've got to watch it. I'm not really sure if the added fire damage is helping my fireball, but if that's the case, then I really don't have anything else to slot it to, so I've just kept it in there to level it up. This guy didn't seem so bad. But then again, I'm not really doing a whole lot of damage. I would definitely say that the way I've got my Shadow set up right now, I'm really just improvising, and I love the fact that you can do that in the game. This is the first character I've ever made, and I can say right now that because of my mana consumption, of my spells, and the fact that I can't really get to my mana regen and my skill trees, I'm really glad that I'm not playing alone right now. This boss's cold attack slows, but at least it doesn't deal constant damage or anything. I guess I shouldn't hit this guy with my fireball since he resists all elemental damage, but if I switch my ethereal knives, I only get about 4 or 5 casts out of it before my mana is completely gone. So thankfully we've got these portals set up so that we can head back into town quick and get an instant refill on our potions. It's not cheating, I swear. I need my mana. Oh yeah, that's more like it. Went in my portal and back through Colby's. That way the portals stay there. So another drawback to my character right now, besides my spells having high mana consumption, is I've got low max health. I really have to rely on my energy shield, so when I see that go down, I've got to book it and spam my health potions. That's why you see me leave combat so often. Colby was saying there's an attack that this boss does that will literally one-shot you.
Oh! That's the laser right there!
Yeah, obviously. Oh man, now that you're dead, I can't really do much. It's so squishy. I guess we'll see what I can do. Oh, damn it. See, that's why I'm glad I'm not playing solo. I definitely need him to tank for me while I kite the enemies in my traps. That's what I'm set up to do at the moment. Because if you really don't have your character spec'd out right, then it can suck for a while. But, you know, in the early game, it really doesn't matter because you can completely change what you're doing as you level and get further in your passive tree, which, if you've seen our first look, then you know the passive tree is absolutely huge in this game. So I also have a curse that allows me to do extra projectile damage, which is effective when I use my ethereal knives.
Melee attack can one-shot you. That can one-shot you. Yep.
Oh.
That's the melee.
And now he's decided to cover my body in ice. Alright, no more dying. This is ridiculous. We gotta beat this now. Alright, so no more melee attacks from this bastard. Let's slow this thing down here. I'll put my curse on him. There we go. Yep, see, I dodged it that time. The nice thing is the lesser projectiles curse I'm using on this guy is essentially a debuff that not only helps my ethereal knives, but also helps Colby's lightning strike, or any other projectiles we throw at him. Oh man, I was trying to avoid that. Alright, I gotta get my bearings straight here, and then I'm gonna... No melee stuff. No melee stuff. Let's shoot him. No laser stuff either. This is ridiculous. Come on. See, that's why it's important for me to have my energy shield up. Now that it's down, I gotta walk around. See if we... Look, we almost got this guy. Almost. Nope. Oh, man, I'm not sure what he's doing, but I have, like, hardly any mana. I'm gonna go over here. Oh, I spawned minions. Well, at least I'm good for taking out these guys. And I can use my fireball because they're not really resistant to any elemental damage like the boss is. We've almost got this guy. Come on. Clear out these guys, be able to go over there and do some melee. So, whoa, I'm a little down on health and everything. I'm going to actually exit real quick, come back in, be fresh to kill this guy. I'll do that. Like I said, if you don't have your guys statted out right, like if you don't have the right equipment to give you health, alright, we got this guy. Here he is. Or in my case, some mana regen and max health. And it can be tough to figure out how to compensate for these things, so... Anyway, now that we've killed this boss, I think I'm going to go ahead and take a look at some of these items and progress a little bit further in the game and show you later on how my build changes over time.
Too much baggage.
Alright guys, so this is some of the new content in Act 3, and as you can see I just leveled up to 28, so not too much has changed as far as my build goes. I've kept my skills the same except for adding Shock Nova, a skill I got earlier in the game, just to have an alternative to my fire traps as an AoE for enemies resistant to fire damage. My ethereal knives are still doing really good as you can see because my Goat's Horn rare wand does bonus spell damage, and these skeleton archers are shooting lightning arrows, and my best resistance is lightning, so this is an ideal area for me to level up. And that's actually what you want to do. If you feel like you're a lower level than where you want to be, keep an eye out for an area where your build is effective and run through that area once or twice. however long it takes to level up where you need to be. There is a cool feature in this game that allows you to reset the zone that you're in by exiting and control left clicking on the entrance or waypoint, then create a new instance for that zone. But you definitely don't want to try leveling in areas where mobs are much lower level, because the game is set up to where you won't get much experience doing so don't let that be a waste of your time. And see here, since these skeleton archers are not resistant to fire, it's best if I use the combination of my fire traps and fireballs based on the overall mana cost of them. Then, when I get out of a larger group, I'll use my Ethereal Knives as sort of a multi-target shotgun. Oh, and I forgot to mention earlier that I have the Raise the Dead skill that will obviously allow me to produce a minion, which honestly isn't very effective for my build right now, but it's nice to be able to use as a decoy when I'm in a pinch, since I don't really have any escape skills. Plus, it's always good to have skills that you can have around if you decide to make other characters. Alright, so as soon as these guys die a fiery death, well, again, because they're already dead, I can add my passive skill point to the tree. I was actually working towards the Chaos Resist, and I think I'm only like 1 point away. Gotta figure out where I left off, because I went different directions. I actually went down first and now up. Okay, here it is. Chaos Resist, plus 16% to Chaos Resistance. So what Chaos damage is a type of elemental damage that penetrates straight through your energy shield and into your health. And since my build relies so heavily on energy shield and evasion, this Chaos Resist is pretty helpful. So what my goal is here is to focus on a build that benefits my Ethereal Knives, so I'm working towards spell damage and cast speeds, and ultimately projectile damage. I wish I had worked my way towards the mana regen first. Now that I see how much I consume from my current experience, I would say, as a new player, you need to focus on survivability and mana, because spell damage does you absolutely no good if you're dead and you can't cast spells. Another cool feature that Path of Exile developers offer on their website is a passive skill tree map where you can go and use points to simulate your passive build and then save that image so that way you can follow it along much quicker than you could have otherwise and have a plan towards what your character will ultimately become. I'll be sure to put a link in the description to the build I use for this character for those who are interested in an early Ethereal Knives build for Shadow class. This particular build is actually really hard to use early game, but it is sure to become extremely fun in late game. I'll also put a link to several guides you can use to build up the Shadow class at various levels, which is essentially what I'm doing. So here we have a unique monster for this area. This particular one, if I can mouse over him, resists elemental damage, moves fast, obviously. He grants frenzy charges to allies upon death, so basically when we kill him he gives his minions attack speed. Oh, and they too resist elemental damage. Good thing we took care of them first. And these little ghoul monkey things suck too. They do bleed damage, which drains your health faster when you move around. So if you notice you're bleeding when you're fighting these guys, just stay there and fight back, otherwise it'll kill you quick. So now that we've pretty much killed off everyone in this area looking for the next area, I'll go ahead and progress a little further and show you guys what I've come up with as far as changing my character's build and even more of Act 3 new content. Alright guys, we are now in Solaris Temple and I'm currently level 32, and this time I've made some huge changes to my character to benefit my build and change up my skills, like my new favorite, Bear Trap, which I have on W. I've also started using two auras, Anger and Clarity. Anger is great for my single attack main double strike skill. It increases the DPS from 152 to 166 and adds fire damage. The Clarity is a really helpful aura. It's a group aura that gives Colby and I mana regen when he gets close. And speaking of which, I no longer have a mana problem because in the short time I leveled to 32, I found several items that really help my max mana and mana regeneration. Let's take a look at that. So here I switched my Goat Horn Wand to this rare dagger that does physical damage and spell damage with plus 12 to max mana and increased crit strike chance. I kept my shield the same because I've yet to find a better one, but this one's actually helping out my evasion rating, and it's got the slots that I need. I've changed out my chest piece to give me a plus 28 to max mana and provide resistance that I didn't have before. I've got a 29% increased mana regen amulet and a ring that gives me 17% increase in mana regen, and another ring that gives me plus 35 to max mana. Even my gloves offer plus 28 to max mana. The point is, I found items that not only solve my mana problem, but also set me up to use new skills that work even better for my build. My max mana went from about 162 to 370, and my mana regen rate went from 4.3 to about 10 after I made these changes, and even with my auras reserving nearly half my mana, I rarely have to spam my mana pots. So some of these enemies that have been added along with Act 3 are even better than the more typical enemies of the first two acts. These statue mobs are pretty badass looking, and the cool part is you never know which statues are actually going to come to life and kill you, because not all of them actually wake up. And all these weird haunted ribbon creatures, they're pretty much the reason why I made these drastic changes to my gear and skills in the first place. Now, seeing that these ribbons are actually ribbons, you would think that the fire damage would do extra damage to them, but that's definitely not the case. They just kill you instead. In fact, they do fire damage themselves. They actually shoot like 3 fireballs, which really sucks. With as complex as this game is and how nice it looks, it's absolutely amazing that 18 game developers are able to do something like this. I've got to give them props. Alright, cool. So I just picked up a new spell gem. Frenzy isn't really good for this character because it's set up more towards like physical attack speed, so this is probably one I'll hang on to for when I decide to make a ranger class. So back to what I was saying earlier, the way I've got my skills set up now makes a lot more sense for my build. My main attack is the double strike, which like I said does 166 DPS and fire damage, plus it really only costs about 11 mana, so it's very resourceful. I can use this attack now because I switched to the dagger, which also allows me to use my whirling blade skill, which I now use as an escape. Like I was talking about earlier, I didn't have. I was using the raise the dead, which like I said shouldn't actually be used as an escape. But the other thing that's helping out our group is Colby's totem that actually just disappeared. His particular totem restores HP extremely fast when you're near it. That's actually the really cool part about these totems. You can pick them up as a support gem, and then you apply spells to them. So you can link it with fire damage, and it does fire damage. You link it with cold damage, it does cold damage. The same goes for all elementals. So since this one heals me so much, you'll probably see me sticking around it. The bad thing is that the AI in the game is actually set to target these totems because they're actually meant to be used as decoys. And you can't even taunt them away. It's kind of ridiculous. They're usually taken out pretty quickly by enemies. Gosh, they're everywhere. That's a lot of ribbons. That's like 1st, 2nd, 3rd through 9th place prize ribbons. Colby's just sitting there too. That's okay, I'll bring the monsters to him. He'll have to react. Or I'll kill them, you know? I'll just kill them. It just tripped my fire trap. I love it. Love that when that happens. Fire traps are so much fun. If you're playing a shadow, definitely get that. Or any class, actually. Because basically what I do is I go in there and I lay a bunch of fire traps for multiple targets, and then I kind of kite them towards that AoE area. Then I lay several bear traps around for this, like the stronger enemies, you know, like the bigger ribbons, you know, the grand prize. Because it does like 371 DPS. Then I use the Ethereal Knives and I use the Whirling Blades to kind of get around if I need to like get back or yeah, like that, so just like move things. You know, because the Ethereal Knives is good for groups of targets. Unless the enemies are unique or elemental and I have low resist, this strategy is actually pretty reliable. And of course, if I do come across enemies with elemental or chaos damage, I've kind of worked my passive tree so that is, you know, it's helping me on that aspect of my build. This is kind of ridiculous. We got elements going everywhere. Nice. See, look at that. We got through a huge mob of enemies and didn't even have to spam potions. These guys are actually higher level than we are. So I think that's actually a good place to wrap up the video. I really hope you like the way I set this video up. And for those of you who are new to Path of Exile, be sure to check out our first look at MMOHut.com. Plus, if you've got questions about the game or my build, feel free to ask me in the comments below. I'll do my best to get them answered for you. Also, if you're looking for really good PoE coverage, check out Crip on Twitch TV. He's always streaming, and he's actually getting really popular to watch. But like always, if you're looking for more information about the game, check out the game profile at MMOHut.com. Plus, they have a really great wiki, and I'll link that in the description below. Path of Exile is now in open beta. Anyone can get in. It's definitely worth downloading and trying out. But until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.